everyone, welcome back to episode 4 of Zero Access Footy. We are here once again, Behm and myself, Rhys, otherwise known as Northie, and Behm Premiership Quarter. We are here once again to talk about everything round 1 footy. What is that smirmy smirk for? What are you looking at me for like that?
I'm hiding my feelings this week.
What, for me? Because you don't do that very often. Not the eyes. Oh, God. All right, but we are back with episode 4, a.k.a. the first proper weekend of footy, and we're here to talk about a lot. So we've got, of course, round 1 reactions.
Yep.
And in particular, we have some deeper dives into St Kilda and North Melbourne, because those other games we ended up going to. The St Kilda versus Adelaide one for you, and sadly for me, the North Melbourne versus Dogs one. So you could obviously tell we're not the happiest this week. But of course, we've got Thanks Basil returning. We've got some bold predictions, and we talk everything that's going on throughout the week in regards to the AFL sphere. ASL.
American Sign Language.
Please don't talk about my poor English. But of course, if you guys do find yourself enjoying what you listen to or watch here today, be sure to subscribe to the Zero Access Footy channel. Leave a like on the video as well. And if you are a Spotify listener, yes, we are on Spotify. Be sure to rate us 5 stars, and make sure if you are watching this, give us a listen over there. If you can't have the time to, I guess, sit down and watch our beautiful faces. We've got some beautiful faces, I'd like to imagine.
I've heard from multiple people that want to be able to do listen, not necessarily listen only, but have it on in the background or something, and you can't do that with YouTube.
Exactly.
So we decided to upload to Spotify.
And yeah, we've also got an Instagram. That's feel free to head over there. Been trying to stay active and been posting a bunch of our content over there. And we let you guys know as well when we are about to post and things we have got on the way. So first thing that we will talk about is our round 1 reactions. Would you like to give yourself a bit of a rundown as to round 1 and how you think it went?
Yeah, well, the 2 games we'll leave are Crows, Saints, and Dogs, Roos. Those will be towards the end where we can talk more in depth about them. But wow, Tigers, Blues.
My favorite.
Oh my goodness!
My favorite thing about that is when it was happening, my immediate mind thought back to how did we introduce it in the podcast? What did we say about it?
80 points. Let's move on.
Yeah, I can't believe we just glossed over it that hard and then got that result. But wow!
But it's insane. Also, Hawks did not defeat Bombers by 85 points.
That is mad. I think Bombers had 85 points. Yes,
it was a
111
26-point margin.
Yeah.
So that is incorrect. But wow.
Legitimately, it was a loss for words. That entire game. I feel like we could talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But it has definitely shaped my mind for both sides.
Yeah.
Mainly Carlton, but for both sides.
I was at work, so I didn't get to watch a lot of the game. I watched the last quarter. But I know a lot of Carlton fans that I'm friendly with left early, like left halfway through the 4th quarter, as soon as Richmond got the lead. It was one of the most shocking results I've ever seen as an AFL fan.
It's the rare time where the media says one of the biggest upsets ever, and you're like, yeah. You didn't think that. I mean, just very quickly, a lot of decisions that Carlton made on top of the
Oh, it wasn't Richmond being great. It was Carlton shitting themselves.
Exactly. It was not just the weird decisions made from the coach's box, but like the pre-season skill level from most of them. It was strange to watch.
There were 40-second compilations of Nick Haynes dropping marks.
Oh my God.
Every
single time Nick Haynes got near the ball, I'm like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
It felt like he would touch the ball, it would bounce off his head, and then straight to a Richmond player for a goal. It was that comedic.
Yeah.
I was laughing after every single Richmond goal coming back.
Bad.
I got lucky enough that I tuned in to start the 2nd quarter, which is when things turned.
Yeah.
So I just saw nothing but the worst of Carlton. But they got off to a great start. Seemed like everything was on track. Halftime, 25-point lead. And everyone's like, it probably should be bigger than this.
Yeah.
They were starting to show their signs of, slipping, but everything was up to scratch. Everything seemed all right. And then just fell apart. 19 points in a half of footy against Richmond. Against basically my favourite way of Dan Does Footy referred to it as a bunch of 14-year-olds. Yeah, it just felt like everything that Carlton was doing it wasn't even at like a pre-season skill level.
No.
It was sloppier than that.
This was worse than a preseason game. Like,
and that's probably why Carlton fans are so mad. They've got aspirations, like the fact that Nick Newman would have been helpful. Obviously, Charlie Curnow probably
big
tips
miss.
it over the top if he was playing.
Kicking accuracy as well. They were shocking.
Yeah, I know. And the decision, I still don't understand. I understand the side of Carlton missing players in the especially tall, strong players to put in the ruck, but I cannot understand why Paddy Cripps played what felt like half the game in the ruck. That's your Brownlow medal winning centreman rover, and you're using him as the ruckman.
Yeah, and also, so you have Jack Silvani, right? Decent medium forward, right? Brady Kemp, decent key back. Nothing wrong with that. Why would you possibly think of switching them to a key defender, to a key forward, and a key forward to a key defender? What could possibly make you think that that would work?
My thinking is that it was them going in saying, "This is Richmond. We can try some things."
But just
clearly
don't get
that's
it.
not the case. And
I don't, because Silvani looked like he could have won them the game in the last quarter as a forward.
Yep.
Kemp couldn't do anything realistically.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a lot of questionable skill and decision making on part of all of Carlton, but give credit where credit's due. Richmond comes out. They've got to at least play hard for that game to go their way, because talent sometimes is enough to beat pure hard work, but the hard work paid off for Richmond this time around. So good on them. I mean, the amount of people who said, will they win it? I mean, it happens every time to the team that's
I'm sure it's happened
on.
to your team a couple of times.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I still hear the people, the nutters who tell me that North should fold, and it's like, no, come on now. But the Tigers, way to start your season. To start your season.
Sure.
Fantastic way for your number one pick to get involved with the club as well. Man, that's going to, I mean, I've heard him mention that he couldn't sleep till 4 a.m. because the adrenaline was just pumping through him.
Jesus.
What a way to get your career started in front of the MCG.
Sure.
Oh, man. That is a dream come true for him. But we'll move on, talk a bit more. We mentioned the Hawks versus the Bombers, but Bombers held on to it. They looked like they could pounce.
It's a decent performance from them against arguably the best team right now.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think Essendon did show some pretty good signs.
There was not many things wrong with their performance that I could critique them on, aside from just a couple players. Like, Jai Caldwell was fantastic.
Yep.
Seriously incredible performance. You got Kako and Caddy looking really promising. Kako's first goal was awesome to watch.
What a way to start. That's a fan. Again, I mean, the round of rookies. So many good rookies at the moment.
Sure. You got Elijah Sarda's looking better in the midfield. Sam Draper potentially holding on to that ruck spot. Oh, I think Nick O'Brien was still playing with him, which still shows that he's still not fully there.
Yeah.
Zach Merritt is always good. I think it was a better performance than definitely what we saw at the end of last season.
Everyone expected it to be a much bigger blowout.
But at the same time, if you're going to be a team making finals, you can probably get that win in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Realistically.
That is true.
So for them, I still think that they're going to middle out. Probably that 8 to 14 spot is the most realistic. But again, I feel like there's still always one injury away. Like Ridley is now out again. So like we were saying all throughout preseason, just stay healthy, keep him in the team, because he's going to be so important to that back line, and now is out already.
Langford Hammy as well, I believe.
Yeah, that too. Saw that. Really tough for them.
But on the other side, on Hawthorn's end, another really, really good game.
Yeah,
for the majority of it from the back line. I'd say about 3/4 worth of a really solid game. And the difference this week was that their small forwards showed up.
Yep. Nick Watson and Moore kicked 3
I was going to say, goals-wise.
Hardwick and Junie kicked 2.
Yeah, they didn't do that last week and managed to still squeak out a win against Sydney. So, the signs are looking great for Hawthorn. This game was so much more pleasant to watch than the Carlton-Richmond.
100%.
If it wasn't for the fact of the storyline and the circumstance, this game would be so much more exciting than the Thursday night game. But I can't get over that game. It's an insane way to start round one. That is a fantastic way.
Yeah, but then you move on top.
Yeah, and then you move on to though.
You know what's crazy though? We can't bash Essendon for this performance.
No, we can bash. They lost. We can bash them.
I cannot bash them for this performance. I got no say in the matter.
Hey, North Melbourne's above them, I think, at the moment, so I can bash them.
Oh, shut up.
The Cats, smashing the Dockers at GMHBA.
Not expected whatsoever.
I mean, I did have Geelong up there pretty high, but I didn't think they would smack the Dockers like this.
Fremantle had some key outs, yes. Like, there was no pressure in their small forward line whatsoever, so Geelong just had free ball moving. But the problem that I had with Fremantle's performance was that it looked like the kicker had a completely different game plan, like mind of the game plan, to what the attacker had, right? You had the kicker wanting to go long whilst the attacker was leading up, and then they had no option long. And then when they wanted to do short kick arounds to make sure they build the ball up slowly, the key forwards were not set up for it whatsoever. So once they moved the ball, they were not set up, and it would just be another turnover. So once again, Justin Longmuir has not found a way to set up his team to where they can move the ball freely. Because they still had Jackson, Amos, and Tracy in that forward line. None of them looked good. Like, De Koning absolutely torched Luke Jackson, and Luke Jackson is a much better player than Sam De Koning at the moment. Tracy, after the fantastic year he had last year, did not look the goods at all this week against a Geelong backline that honestly isn't the most talent-filled at the moment. Like, there's not a proper key defender there. So Mark Blitzard's also touted up Jai Amos, which it just doesn't show that they've got a good forward line to be able to score, even though we saw some great performances over the last 2 seasons from their 2 key forwards. So their midfield also got torched. Like, Bailey Smith had an insanely good game
That's a
against
ridiculous way to start yourself off.
Yeah.
That's a really good way. I was going to mention Bailey Smith was by far the biggest surprise
Oh
to me.
my God. Oh my God, was he awesome. Like,
Was he awesome?
Awesome.
Yeah.
32 touches, a goal, 5 tackles, 7 clearances in your first game, almost 700 meters gained. In your
Off an
first
ACL injury.
I mean, he had like 5 years to return from it.
Yeah, that is true.
But like, the only positive thing I can take out of this was Murphy Reid kicking 4 goals in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And even still, he was on -8 Supercoach before then. So it's just like,
You can't put all your basket into fantasy points, but I understand what you're saying. He wasn't doing much until he whipped out 4 goals.
I mean, for Geelong, right? Smith 32 touches, then it was Sam De Koning with 25, Max Home and Henry with 24. For Fremantle, you had O'Meara 31, Smith and Johnson 27, Andy Brayshaw 26, O'Driscoll 25. It's not like they didn't get a chance to have the ball and score. They just couldn't move the ball. So I think for Fremantle, there's a really, really disappointing game.
It's also a GMHBA thing. I understand.
No, but they've been good at GMHBA. That's the problem.
They have
been very good there.
I understand that, but it's still Geelong's home ground. I think it has that distinctive advantage.
Yeah.
It's the only Victorian team that has a separate home ground. The dimensions of the field are also something they're most used to. It's a very small wing, and so I do take it into account when teams play against that, because Geelong can absolutely clamp up a defense because they're used to that.
Yeah,
they're used to that ground. They know how to shrink that ground, as shrunk as it already is. But where do you go as an opposition when you know that the defense knows where everyone wants to go? Realistically,
yeah, I suppose so.
On a ground like that. So I always take that into account, but at the same time, 78 points is probably not
It's extreme.
just off the ground.
Extreme.
I think that's just being completely outplayed. But yeah, like you said, shining was Smith, De Koning. Holmes did all right, 2 goals. He started off really well. Cameron with 4 as well. Really, really keeping in stride even. Tom Stewart did pretty all right. Brian Myers was effective where you needed to be. Lawson Humphreys, a quite good one. But yeah, overall, Geelong just outmatched them.
Yeah,
and that's
completely.
really scary signs for the Dockers.
Yeah.
We'll move into Swans other way around. Lions beat the Swans by 4. Producer, you've really screwed this up. Well done, mate. This is kind of rough to look at.
He's written Swans defeated by
What do you mean?
Lions.
It's home.
4
It's
points.
home and then away, and then all I have to do is add def or by.
Yeah, but you've got it.
one.
Oh, you have written defeated by. Yeah, this is confusing.
Only
though.
the Bombers score is
confusing,
wrong.
though.
Everything else, mate, is correct and consistent. Thank you very much.
It's still confusing.
Rhys, you just
This is a
got
professional.
absolutely torn
This is a
apart.
professional outfit, Rhys. I would advise you to.
We're
to
4
listen.
episodes in, mate. We're 4 episodes in. We haven't gotten a single sponsor.
And you
yet.
haven't
It's
done
okay.
a single thing.
No, you shut your mouth. You shut your mouth, producer. Stay back there. I don't want to hear that mic turn on for the rest of the podcast. We've got Swans defeated by the Lions by 4 points.
Yes. Great win by Brisbane.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great win by Brisbane.
Yep. Sydney 0-2 now.
Came back. Yeah, my look at Sydney finishing first.
I just couldn't trust it, especially years after big premiership losses.
They are still missing a lot of players, though.
They are.
They are.
But 0-2 with both your games at home.
Yeah, not
You
looking
don't.
good.
You don't like even with the lack of injuries. The amount of injuries they have. Some talent still that they could win some games.
Yeah.
I think it's just unfortunate they've started with Hawthorn and Brisbane.
Yeah, very.
That's probably the
arguably
toughest
the
part.
two best teams.
Yeah.
So
And I think the most exciting thing for me out of all this is Levi Ashcroft fit in really well.
he did. He looked really good.
He's fit in really nicely. 25 posies is, a stat line that you can look at for your first game and go, oh, for God's sake. Because
How have
Brisbane
they
now
done
bringing
this
some
again?
more talent. It's just, for Brisbane fans, it's a fantastic
You're
start to
so
the year.
lucky, Brisbane.
Fantastic
Jesus
start.
Christ.
I think overall Sydney can't hang their hats too hard on these first two games.
No.
They can't look at this and go, "Oh, we've lost the plot," because they definitely haven't. But you look at some of the players here. Heaney has done himself all right. 2 goals, 23 possessions, and gotten himself around the ground a bit. Some others.
Zach Bailey.
Blakey's done well.
Zach Bailey, I thought was really important to Brisbane.
Yeah, Zach Bailey. Yeah, he's going to be. 4 goals, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think about the idea of how helpful he's going to need to be with Lincoln McCarthy, and that is him stepping up
And
to
Charlie
a T.
Cameron was also laid out, so
That
he
too.
stepped up big time.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Your man Eric Hipwood, 1 goal and 5 touches, absolutely Coleman medal worthy right there.
Let's go, baby. No, he's not winning the Coleman. He's coming third. He's not doing that. But
Dunkley, fantastic as well.
stepping up where they need. Yeah, Dunkley was really good. But I'm trying to look more on the Sydney side of things because
Blakey, good as always. It just...
Corey Warner's been quite nice to watch.
He was good. I thought he was pretty impressive. Sort of did that small forward role as a halfback flanker almost.
He's looking more and more comfortable, I think, as he plays,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
great to see. Obviously, with Chad kind of taking a lot of the spotlight, Corey's starting to make a name for himself.
Their
which is
2
great.
leading goal kickers were C. Warner.
That's it. That's it.
Like,
the Warner boys
It was
going
really,
on.
really impressive. But yeah, I just still think that we've had 2 weeks now with the McCartan experiment. He has kicked 1 goal in both games, I think.
If you didn't kick a goal this game,
He kicked 1 goal this game.
he's kicked 2 then.
Okay, so he's kicked 1 goal.
1 goal in each game, which
Yeah.
I still don't think is worth it.
No, but again, I think
They're waiting
at
on Logan
least
McDonald.
3-4 weeks you need to do experiments to
Yeah.
see. If you're going to make something in the off-season, give it 3 or 4 weeks if you don't switch it mid-game and it works.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
the Sydney, tough start, but Brisbane's still looking the goods. For sure.
We'll see a win that Sydney get, and we'll be like, all right, Sydney
Yeah.
are back on track.
Collingwood versus Port Adelaide. Let's move on. Adelaide versus St
Producer,
Kilda.
keep
We're
that
moving on.
microphone turned off. I don't want to hear it. Pies beating Port. Look, this was just, it was domination, realistic. And I hate saying it because I can feel his presence behind me. I hate this so much. I hate it when we have
Collingwood
to
have
talk
had
about it.
4 preseason games this year.
They're cheats, they are.
Yep, 4 preseason
They're
games.
cheats, they are.
Yep.
Dan McStay.
We don't need to talk about West Coast and Gold Coast because that was an absolute demolishing. Ben King's probably going to win the Coleman this year.
You think so? Did you have him one?
He kicked 5. I think I had him
He kicked 6.
4th.
Did he
kick 6?
Yeah,
I
he
don't know. Like, seriously.
He did have that
just
big
kicked-
mark in the goal square. I watched a
think so.
small bit of it, and I tuned in right as that happened. And that forward line.
Yeah, he
I
kicked 6.
said I had no hope in them. Right, this is what they should have done. I think a passing grade was to beat them by 30 plus.
Yeah,
I
probably.
think this is high distinction.
Yep.
87 is
Biggest
fantastic.
win in
Biggest win in
history.
history. I mean, you can't go past that.
Noah
Eagles,
Anderson, top 3 Brownlow's looking good.
that is a good one. That is a good pick
And
too.
they won away from home.
I mean, all 3 of their main mids.
Yeah, took Miller and Rowell.
Rowell, Anderson, all fantastic, which is,
Yeah.
a great sign for Gold Coast fans. For all 10 of them. But
Coming from a North Melbourne fan.
hey, we still
Of
got more
course.
fans. We still got more fans. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then, did you want to talk a little bit about D's versus Giants or?
Had Melbourne have won this, I could have seen them finishing in the 8 because that's a win that a top 8 team gets, similar to the Essendon Hawthorn game.
Mm-hmm.
But they just couldn't hold on. It's really unfortunate, but they just couldn't hold on against a very solid GWS team. Still no Jesse Hogan, but Toby Green had 23 touches and 3 goals with a huge captain's performance. He was fantastic. Christian Salem was very good as well. Hadn't had a good game in a long time. So good to see him back. Lockie Whitfield, good off halfback forever. But Melbourne with their 5 debutants, I think one of them was a sub in Langford, they looked pretty good. I still think that, again, still too many what ifs. Like Petrarca had 27 touches and 2 goals. Fantastic. Oliver had 25 and 5 clearances. But are we going to see this throughout the entire year? Obviously, almost every team will want to have a good first round. But had they had a great first round, they would have won, and I could have easily seen them making finals, but they didn't. And it's really disappointing for them because they should have won.
Yeah, we've both marked this team as a boom or bust. Do we still agree with that?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Fair enough. I think I still agree with that, but this game definitely makes you question it.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say is Matt Jefferson played for them, kicked his first goal within 30 seconds or something.
That's always helpful.
Yep, always helpful. But I think I'd wanted him in the team for the last couple of years, even if he wasn't ready, because just play him, because I really like the kid. He's like 195, 196 centimeters as a key forward. Would have fit perfectly alongside Van Rooyen. Finally gets his chance and kicks a couple goals. It's very good for him. So I think he can be a mainstay in this team for the rest of the year.
Nice. Beautiful. Well, the 2 teams that we skipped by were, of course, or the 2 games even, Dogs beating the Roos and Crows beating the Saints. We both went to these games. Let's go a bit further in depth. What's the first graphic? What's the first team? I think it was mine. So Dogs defeating the Roos. I'll talk a bit about how I feel about this game because there's positives, but it still feels really negative. Mm-hmm. I think the amount of players they had out, I really thought this game was gettable. I think a lot of people that I had talked to had said this game was very gettable.
Yep.
And they stayed in it 3/4 time, 79-72. I was like, all right, could happen. And I told myself in the footage that I've recorded, because we're planning to get a video out, if it hasn't come out already, then it should come out within a day or 2 of this podcast coming out. If not, it's already out. And be sure to check that out after you've listened to this. But North Melbourne losing by 16 in the end. I had mentioned that North have the scoring end, and they did. But any end is the scoring end when you're up against North, and it frustrates me to all hell. This team is still missing something defensively. Charlie Comben has so many good but so many bad games. Jackson Archer, we'll talk about him, I'd imagine, some point later.
For sure.
But I feel like he did an all right job, despite him not showing up on the stat sheet too much. I think he played well one-on-one
as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely is. That's why he gets games. But I think he played pretty well. The biggest surprises out of them all, Sheasel was surprisingly sloppy. Lots of disposals, as great players will do, but efficiency-wise, I'm not sure. How was his efficiency? All I know is he felt really, really sloppy.
Stats, disposals.
Even though he had the 31, the things we can also talk about are the inefficiency in goal, the exception being Larky, even though he did miss a shocking one. He had a dribble kick coming and he kicked it, rather than kicking it towards the goal, he just went straight through the point post, which was funny. But Cam Zerha, 1 goal, 4. You look 2 points for Harry Sheasel, a single point for Tom Powell.
It's not coming up for me.
A rough game to watch. Luke Parker was just a point. Larky is the only one that anytime he has the ball in hand, I think, yep,
You trust.
there's a goal.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing it.
Zerha, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
bro.
Zerha always gets on my nerves.
Oh
but
my
at the
God.
same time, I would much rather him at least have the opportunity to go at the ball, right? And this game he did. There were some games in the preseason where he didn't. And I was getting really worried that Zerha was on the way out of this rotation.
Probably could be still anyway. Like,
Sherry,
it's not confirmed.
Sherry with a fantastic start to his season. I mean, how's this for a stat line? 17 disposals with 4 kicks, 13 handballs. Had himself 7 tackles, which is good, and 51 hit-outs, which is fantastic. 5 metres gained. 5 metres.
So he had 4 kicks, right?
He may as well have had 1 hand pass.
Yeah, literally.
17
That's
posies for 5
insane.
metres gained. That is a Tristan Sherry stat line, baby.
I do not care.
Trademark it.
I do not care. He got me a lot of Supercoach points, so that is what matters.
If you're a fantasy player, Tristan Sherry is a godsend. You just hope that meters gained is not something that you focus on.
Yeah.
Simkin, Really, really, I mean, after the Indigenous All-Stars game and this
Yeah.
game, off to a ripper start
Mhm.
for 2025, and it's fantastic to see that from your captain. I'm really glad he's the sole captain too. As much as I love Elmac, he's a North boy from day dot, which is great. I really didn't see him being captain-wise. I think that was more of a passion project for him.
that dot should have ended a couple of years ago, probably.
Yeah. And Tom Powell,
Yeah. Your
Massive game.
your predictions.
massive game.
Yeah.
He has cracked that rotation
Mm-hmm.
and not just like an occasional one. He is a big-time
It'll
midfielder.
still be very interesting to see when Wardlaw gets back.
Yeah, that's a big question mark. But
Do you
enough
chuck
of the-
LDU forward? That's my question. Or Sheasel forward? Full time.
It'll. I hope it's not Shees.
Really? You know, don't think the class up there could be handy when you got Cam Zerha
could.
next to it. Just at least cancel
Like
it out.
it could. I think. Look, either one of them, I'd be happy with
Yeah,
being
okay.
in that forward line. I just think LDU is starting to go out and out, as you'll see. Like he had some good moments. He kicked a pretty easy
Hey,
goal for himself.
If he
had two
keeps
on the game.
if
20
he keeps
posies, not a
shitting
bad
himself, his value's going down, and we don't need to offer him as much. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
one. I guess so. But
That's all I'll say.
we'll talk about the Dogs a little bit as well. Despite the lack of players and their usual amount, Liberatore captained the side for the day and
Yeah.
led by example. Was probably
He
their
was
best player.
very good,
Oh no,
very
he
good.
wasn't. Ed Richards was their best player.
Yeah.
But Bailey Dale,
Huge for
fantastic.
Richards.
I think when you come up against a player like Bailey Dale, I don't know how you
just
allow him
gotta
to
put
kick
someone-
two goals
You
so
just got to
easily.
put someone to him immediately.
Yeah,
there's no point in
anytime they
bothering.
mark on the forward.
Yeah,
Forward 50
gotta
or the
track.
center line, you've got to look. You've got
Yeah.
to locate him, and it just felt like North.
I'm not
didn't.
sure who was on him, if it was Curtis or if it was number 46. name?
Robert Hansen Jr.
Yeah, I think it was him for the most part because he was sort of pushing up a little bit.
He showed good signs though.
He showed good signs, definitely, but if that was his job to stay on Bailey Dale, he definitely did not do it.
Yeah. Some
That's the
negatives I will point out. Caleb Daniel was very inefficient too. I think I'd heard people mentioning to me plenty of times that Caleb Daniel is a player that gets his hands on the ball but gives away so much. Gives away so
Yeah.
much. And for the obvious reason, he's
Yeah.
tiny. But look, I'm not mad at the performance. I just wish we had taken it. I
Yeah.
wish we had
Yeah.
taken this opportunity because I don't know how many more opportunities we'll have. Hopefully, with the more experience in the side, obviously the core, another season, another preseason together. You're seeing already the benefits with Tom Powell, but just throughout the entire squad, I hope that over the year we can start picking it up and stringing it together. And there were the positives that North had taken out, especially Alistair Clarkson had mentioned. They had stuck in it until 5 minutes left in the game. The game was still up for grabs, and that's what they had emphasised.
Yeah,
And sure, that is true, but it's against the team
They had
expected
nothing.
to fall out of the 8, missing their tops.
7 to 8 players, arguably.
Arguably, I'd say
5 or 6
I'd say
or something.
Libba's in that top 5. It could be at least.
Liverpool, but like in terms of, there's still a whole lot missing.
Yeah, there was
like
a lot
a
missing.
whole
That's
lot
that's
missing.
that's the point I'm
Yeah.
making. There was a lot missing.
Bont, Trelaw,
sure
Jones,
we were-
Ugle-Hagan, all of them.
Yeah, sure, we were in it, but I don't know how positive you can make that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, look, well done to the Dogs boys. They did really well. I hope that Luke Cleary,
Yeah,
that was a
hope he's
really,
okay.
really rough
Yeah.
one to watch. And so I'm hoping that he can recover. Was he a debutant as well?
He was,
Yeah,
yes.
that's an awful,
Really
it's an
unfortunate.
awful
Yeah.
situation for him, and I hope that he recovers. I remember seeing it live. I didn't even notice that it had happened. It happened that quickly. All
Yeah.
I saw was Jackson Archer fly through a pack and come out holding his knee, and
Yeah.
I was like stressed. I was stressed because I'm like, not
Horrible
already.
looking. Yeah.
Not already, but obviously he didn't come out nearly as poorly as Luke did. So hopefully he's doing well.
Yeah. Shout out Latham Vandermeer. He was fantastic for the
Very
Bulldogs.
good game for Latham. Yep.
He was probably their best small forward for
He
sure.
just kept
And
popping up,
yeah,
and that's what was
always,
frustrating.
everywhere.
And my personal best on ground, despite the votes, Sam Darcy.
Really?
He couldn't be stopped in the air. Anytime,
Yeah, he was very
anytime
good
the
in the
ball
air.
got near him,
Yeah.
like none of our players knew how to beat him. Charlie
how many
Comben was
marks do
being
you think
eaten
he
up.
took? How many marks do you think he took?
8.
6.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like every single time that ball went to him in a pack,
He had
he'd take the mark.
He had 12 touches, a goal, and 6 hit outs.
He was fantastic, though. He was
So-
truly like every time it went near him, I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Okay.
He
Well-
was one of those players, and so
Yeah.
maybe not as effective on the stat sheet,
Mm-hmm.
but the likes of Ed Richards, of course, he kept popping up. Bailey Dale, I thought he'd get the 10 votes, or he'd get a lot more votes, but
Riches was
do all right.
awesome.
He
Richards
managed to
was
do
awesome.
himself all
I
right.
think it's
And
time to move
Libba
on.
was there.
It's time to move on,
Yeah.
mate. You talk too much. We
I
know
do
this.
talk too much. Leave me alone.
But now, I wanted to move on because I just wanted to get this out of the way. Jesus Christ, we are shocking. Holy God. We are atrocious this year. Like, the entire time I was saying we just need to start off well. If we want to have a good year, at least push Adelaide. Don't win, just push Adelaide. Start off well in the first quarter as well. Just keep it close. Keep it within a couple of goals. Nope. They kicked 7 of the first 8 goals of the game. And it was done by then. We could have ended it after the first quarter. I would have been like happy. I said in the predictions, an 80-point win as a joke. And we got whacked by 63. We were horrible. We were absolutely atrocious. There were 2 players, max 3, that I was happy with. And that was Jack McRae and Wanganeen Milora. That was about it. One of them we got for absolutely nothing. The other's probably going to leave.
No.
So I am just withering in my sleep. Okay, the other one was Max Hall, who was awesome to start with, but sort of faded away. But I just don't understand what we're doing. Mind you, everything that could have went Adelaide's way, went Adelaide's way. Every single 15-metre kick that shouldn't have been paid, got paid for Adelaide. Like, quite literally, there were kicks that went maybe 8 metres that were paid for them, that were paid advantage for us because it wasn't 15. And that resulted in possibly 3 goals from memory. There were times where we quite literally were just so unlucky with the bounce of the ball that just went their way and they'd kick a goal. Like, it had just bounced through our legs. Everything went Adelaide's way, so I don't want to take too much out of it for them. But holy shit, are we bad. And we're running very slow on this, so I'm going to try and make it quick. But if you do want to see a bit more, we will do our little vlog stuff, hopefully releasing tonight, if not tomorrow. But check that out for sure. If you want more news.
It's been a tough week for the hosts of the podcast in terms of their teams. And although we both are very, very keen on our football, you'd think that we enjoy the pain with how much we talk about football.
No. God, no.
You'd think we enjoy the pain, but we definitely don't. It's a tough task out here going through our teams. And maybe this is the only time we'll do it, considering it's round 1 that we talk specifically about our teams. But lots of positives, and of course, we weren't the worst ones off. There's always Carlton.
Always.
I'm so glad.
So it's gone from Essendon to Carlton.
How is it not? How is it not
Love
gone
it.
from that? How is it not?
That's a good point.
All right, next up, we've got ourselves a fun little segment, the reoccurring segment that comes back. We've got another one from what I've been told.
We do.
And I'm excited to see how this looks. We've got... Oh, no! It's him! It's him! Oh, God! So I'll let you explain this.
Okay, so when I went to Adelaide, because I went to Adelaide like a dumb idiot on the weekend, I went with family. And he made a couple features in my vlogs, my uncle. And I love him. He is probably the one person who actually sparked my enjoyment in footy back in like 2018. I go to the footy with him almost every second week whenever we have home games, and there's about 25 people in our aisle out of the possible 100 or whatever it is.
That's awesome, but can you explain the name? Just so they
the
don't
name
think...
is Jeremy Epstein, not Jay Epstein, and our producer has stitched us up. That is basically what's happened. The photo is very professional looking, and he looks very good, I must say. But I think it's now time to listen to his rant over the weekend.
What? Is that the Collingwood theme song? Is that what that was? No! Turn it off, bro.
Haunting us 15 years later.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
Just play the clip.
Thanks, Basil. Just got back from Adelaide to watch the piss-poor effort from St Kilda. I can't believe it. I cannot stand Adelaide, and I chose to go there this year and go and watch that tripe that they put up. I'm sick and tired of our key players getting injured every single season. For the last 3 years, we haven't had a full list to choose from till mid-year. The Saints will make a massive comeback in the second half of the year. What do you freaking do and screw our draw for the following year's cannot stand it, cannot stand the fact that our leadership group, specifically Jack Steele, our captain, can't even perform and stand up and act as a captain on field. Shows what sort of rubbish we're dealing with St Kilda at the moment. Hate the Crows. They played very well, mind you. They will be a threat at home with their more mature list. If they can keep themselves not injured, they probably will have a crack at the finals. Over to you, Behm and Baz. We'll speak to you next week, perhaps. Grumpy old man signing out.
Do you call me Baz?
I don't know. I think so.
Man,
Behm
I must
and
be so
Basil.
unremarkable.
Well, we know that, but anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I set myself up for that. Yeah, I
Yes,
get
you
it. It's for Basil's employees, but yes.
We are so shit. Oh my god. But I love that he talked about Jack Steele because I 100% agree, and I think we should have moved on from him as captain like 2 years ago. Seriously,
He's getting to that point.
he doesn't look like a leader. And when we're down in the depths, he's not doing anything. He's just walking around. Him and Zach Jones looked like they were 50 years old out there. It was atrocious. Like Jake Saligo was running rings around them. Like seriously, and he's meant to be our captain.
Suggestions on who would be the
Callum
backup?
Wilkie.
Callum, yeah.
Callum Wilkie.
Yeah, Callum.
The All-Australian fullback in the last 2 years.
Well, it sounds like you're having fun over in St Kilda land, and he sounds like an absolute treat. Your Uncle Jay Epstein. I can't believe the name.
Oh, Ethan, what have you done?
Oh, God.
Just ruined his career.
I love
dare
that
you,
so
Ethan.
much. But after round one, we have had a lot to talk about regarding our own teams, regarding other teams. What is one bold prediction? I'll start off with you.
Start off with you.
Okay, I actually have one. All right,
Yeah.
I will start this one off.
Please.
My bold prediction, Michael Voss will not have a job after season 2025.
I agree.
Is that bold? Do you
I'm
reckon?
doing it again.
God damn it. Do you reckon he will have a job at the end of 2025?
Probably not.
I don't think so. I don't know if that's hot take, though. I don't know if that's a bold prediction.
Not anymore. Had you have said this before last week, it would have been a really hot take. But I just think that given how shit they were and how tactically inept he is during a game,
That was an
in terms
awful-
of making changes,
That was an awful...
Shocking.
Oh, my God. I couldn't
Shocking.
believe some of the decisions being
Yeah.
made. Like, sure, the skills on display didn't help, but I still can't get over how Cripps had gotten himself, even after how, like, poor it looked like the play was turning around for them once Cripps had gone into the ruck, right?
Yeah.
Sam Walsh backed off a little bit. That was one that surprised me. He just felt like he wouldn't step up for the life of me. So I'm like, I tell you what you do.
So
you
confusing.
put Cripps in his usual position, but they just refused to. They
was-
refused to.
I don't
and
get
you
it.
have to find a different way.
Yeah.
You had to, right? You found Jack Silvani towards the end of the game had started to step up. And sure, maybe that's a reason. The fact that Mackay was the only big forward was the only reason you didn't want to put him in the ruck,
Yeah.
right? But you have to find a way to put your Brownlow medal winning, your two-time Brownlow medal winning player in
Yeah.
his preferred position. I don't know why they were so consistent on him being the ruckman, and just that alone had made me think, what is Voss doing? What is he thinking? And so I guess based off of one round, one game, yeah, I think Michael Voss won't have a job by the end of the season.
Fair enough. I've thought of a bold prediction.
Yep.
And you can come at me for this all you like based off of my rant last week on St Kilda people who should have been St Kilda people but weren't. Harley Reid ends up leaving, but West Coast are better off without him.
I like it. I like where you're kind of going.
Now, where he goes, I don't know. I'm sure Geelong will 100% be going for him.
They
I'm
always
sure
are,
Essendon, St Kilda,
will offer him
all of
something.
them,
Everyone will.
they'll-
I think
they'll go
everyone
for him.
realistically will offer him something.
And it's not about where he leaves. I just think that he does leave and that West Coast, whatever they get for him, will be enough. Because there's a chance they get Chad Warner and they might not even have to give up as much as what they get for Harley Reid. So you get a better player. You get a player who's probably going to fit your timeline almost better. Elijah Hewitt then has a chance to break out a bit more than what he would have with Harley Reid's there, because we already know what Chad Warner is. Trying to develop multiple players at the same time is a bit harder than having someone who can support the player developing. So I think if they can trade him to even a team like the Bulldogs, where you get someone like Jed Buslinger back, you get their picks and everything, then you have a key back who can pair alongside Harry Edwards, Jeremy McGovern, Brady Hoff. Then you can set up behind the ball, and then you allow someone like all their picks to go to Sydney. You get Chad Warner. You get a midfield of Hewitt, Jinby, Baker, and Chad Warner. You're set up defensively. You got some really good spark offensively, and you've got someone like Bo Allen as well. I think that could potentially help them more than it would rather than taking the time to develop Harley Reid's game. And he also just doesn't look invested. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, what he's got, is his partner still Yasmin Dersma?
Yes, I believe
She plays for Carlton.
Yep.
And so obviously a long distance relationship can be a big factor.
And
all his family,
yeah,
all of that could definitely be something that drags him back to Victoria.
Yeah.
I think, look, I've always been a fan of players trusting the process, right? I think there's a lot of North players that I will forever love because they trust the process. And LDU, if he were to leave, I would trust the process and say, you know what, that's fair. You've done what you can. Thank you for your service. But back with Harley, I think West Coast, right? I think they get a lot of value. I think they. I think it back, and I hate that I keep bringing it back to North Melbourne. I'll try my best not to every time, but Jason Horne-Francis,
creative, mate.
Jason Horne-Francis,
Be
right?
more creative.
After one season and probably the least amount of value he had,
Yeah.
North Melbourne managed to get, I think it was pick 3 or pick 4. They got either Sheasel or Wardlaw, right? And you have to look at it from that perspective.
Either or, yeah.
They could have had Horne-Francis, who was not invested, but they lost him after a year and cashed in early and managed to get something pretty good out of it. So I agree with the idea of if Harley leaves, right, and they trade him, I think, the value that he provides would be more than Horne-Francis would.
100%.
Or he'd bring back more. He'd bring back more value for West Coast.
He'd bring back more, 100%.
So I like the idea of it being better off for West Coast. I think the hot take maybe isn't as much Harley Reid leaving, more West Coast will be better off doing so.
Yeah, that's...
And so maybe
The
on...
the take is that Harley take will leave, but the bold take is that West Coast are better off without him.
Yeah, okay. I like it. I think, on your similar topic of Harley Reid, getting more value out of him leaving than if he were to stay, I think more teams will get confident picking players out of state in their top picks if they can get the value out of it.
Yeah.
Right? You have the questions with Harley when he was picked. You had the questions with Horne-Francis when he was picked. And will happen forever. The value they provide. Is it worth sending them off to bring in more value?
Yeah.
Obviously losing the talent that is that particular player. I think if Harley's trade, if that is to happen, if that were to pay off, then more teams would be confident picking those high-level players, no matter where they're from.
I think it might be less confident, but they'd almost take the risk because if they do leave, teams are willing to pay so much for it. Like,
they're still young.
they're still young.
They'll always have the idea of we're their hometown.
Yeah.
We can do it better, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think teams need to make the most of that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time to move on to a somewhat decent talking about that you wanted to go with.
Yeah.
Which was this week was the most attended round of AFL football ever.
And that's insane to think about
Yeah.
right after such a crazy opening round, right? Everyone talking about whether we should scrap that.
Yeah.
You then talk about now round 1, the week after, being the most watched in-person round, which is fantastic. I mean, we've had it ever since we all got out of lockdowns and all that. It seems like that's been happening every single year, which is a great sign. The average attendance for round 1 being basically 48,000. That is a fantastic number.
Fantastic.
I remember the North Dogs, I was expecting 20,000. I think they nearly got to 40.
That's really good.
I was very shocked by that.
And you know what's insane? Melbourne GWS got 25,000. And that was the lowest attended of the round.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nuts.
Melbourne's probably going to be the team that does get kicked out of the MCG to Marvel games, realistically. But they just need to find a team who can replace them because no one else is really going to get the games.
I was going to say maybe the Dogs.
Maybe, but again, they don't get that
What's
much
the other?
more.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the
Like
other
St.
team?
St. Kilda aren't getting games because they don't win enough. North are doing the same.
It'll probably end up going to St. Kilda once they start winning.
Potentially.
Maybe
But
North. Maybe
we
North.
are the- we
no,
are the-
no, definitely not North because
we-
they're the smallest club in
We
Victoria.
are the
but-
team pushing it the most to try get it.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be very interesting given the AFLPA, Paddy Dangerfield. He has gone on record saying that with all the lessening numbers and everything, whatever, all the TV ratings going down, shorten the quarters. Well, we just had the most attended in-game round ever. What does he have to say for it now? Because if he believes that it's still going to impact the game, shortening quarters in a benefit, what's his proof? Because we just had the opposite happen.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the growth, right? You have to look at the trends rather than the on day statistics.
Yeah.
And I think the trend to look at is still relative to the round one massive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Every single year since 2020 or 2021, when we start, I think it was 2022 when we started getting back into full crowds.
Yep.
It's been just up and up and up, which is fantastic.
Yep.
I think opening round is just the one to look at.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether opening rounds impact, despite how much people dislike opening round at the moment.
It almost pushed people to want to go to the games more.
Exactly.
Like they
so
were needing it so much.
At? That's kind of what I was trying to infer with.
Yeah.
Right? Does the AFL keep AFL opening round?
They will, 100%.
Because of the outcome of round one. I think, yeah, and I think they will.
If they keep doing it where the big teams get to play in opening round, like Collingwood, Essendon, Hawthorn, all those big teams that get crowds, if they keep playing them there and their team plays well, it's going to increase the demand to get tickets in round one, because that then helps the AFL. If a team plays well, then you're going to want to go watch them, realistically.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously the most important thing for the AFL is getting as many teams to play well as possible.
I'm really excited for the year that opening round happens, goes really well.
Yeah.
Right? All
It'll be
of the
next
games,
year.
most of the games.
It'll be next year.
Yeah, all of the games, well, first off, they happen, obviously, this year being
Yeah.
an exception.
Yeah.
All the games happen. It just has to be two of them are fantastic games, like down to the wire games. How exciting would that be for Victorian fans and now go, man, footy season is back. I got that, and we had the opening round that we had, right? Imagine seeing how good opening round turns out to be outside of Victoria, and then all the Victorian fans are like, yes, footy's back, man.
Uh-huh.
I think that's going to show more and more impact as the years go on. And that's why I was kind of hesitant to say, should opening round be scrapped? I think I said last week that, yeah, it probably should. But now seeing the benefit that it has to round one, maybe I take that back. Maybe it's a second opinion.
I still think the most realistic thing is for them to keep it, because that's just what the AFL is going to do. Why would they scrap it? But I still think for the best of the game, it's probably best to not have it, given if something happens, we can see how much it affects the fixture. And I just don't think that if the games are up in the northern states, chances are there's a higher chance one of the games does get postponed or something weather related happens similar to what happened this year, because it's got a much higher chance up there than it does down here. But it definitely had an impact, I think. Well, I think it's time to talk about Tassie now, because there was an article that came out, I believe, yesterday, based off of the draft concessions that they will be getting for when their first year comes around. And I'll sort of go through them now. They will get access to uncontracted players as free agents across 2 trade periods, maximum of 1 player from every club, and those clubs do get some compensation picks. They will get a sign-up bonus of more than $1 million to help attract players, which will be a very interesting thing to do, because how they assign that to different players will be something of relevance. They will get access to Tasmanian father-son selections, meaning the Rewalt kids are the 2 main ones, and I'm going to be absolutely fucking fuming because as St Kilda, we do not get a single selection of father-son because we don't have any history. The one player who does have history in our club has 3 kids that will not be able to access at St Kilda.
Unlucky.
Why? I mean, I think they get to choose, actually, but I don't know if they'll choose St Kilda or not, because we could be absolutely
Dude,
horrible.
imagine they pick Tasmania over you.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh
Just
my
another
God.
recruit that rejects St Kilda.
But this time it's 16-year-olds.
They got told to learn to speak Tasmanian. And they're like, yeah, I'd rather that over St Kilda. I would so much rather the Devils over St Kilda. That's unreal.
So they'd rather the Devils than the Saints. Okay.
Insane.
They will get access to Tasmania as an academy zone, which is 100% fair. Access to multiple Tasmanian prospects eligible for the 2026 draft, so in 2 years' time, who could opt to sign with the Devils instead of entering the draft. They would play in the VFL ahead of the 2028 season, which is very interesting. So 2026 draft, first year is 2027, all throughout the VFL. I'm assuming they would just play for the team that they got drafted to as affiliate, basically. I don't know how well that would work, and I don't know how many players would actually want that, because it's a very interesting selection. I think that should almost just be 17-year-olds who just get access.
Yeah.
It's the same as like when the Suns and the Giants came in. Well, not the Suns. They didn't get the concessions. The Giants. So they were basically able to pre-draft players. So they then went back and continued playing like not local footy, but like, you know, NAB league or whatever. But they were always going to go to XYZ club rather than enter the draft.
So yeah, same thing happening for Tassie.
Okay.
So they'd go down their regular route, basically knowing, all right, my position's locked up. I know I'm going to Tasmania, but I'm going to act as if or play and keep my development.
So it's just a year of development, basically.
Yep.
Multiple early selections in rookie and mid-season drafts. That's fine. Not going to be impacting too much, one would think. And then selections at the start of rounds 2 onwards in the draft. So that's instead of having picks 1, 3, 5, and 7 in like 2 straight years, they'd get pick 1 and then like 19, 20, 21 or whatever.
Yeah.
So a much more stable draft for the clubs who were bad during that period. And it probably levels out the competition a bit more than what it did, because it probably pushed back a couple teams as rebuilding at that time with the Giants and the Gold Coast Suns, given they were 2 so close together.
Yep.
I kind of agree with everything. I think they had 2 teams to be able to basically practice with. And now that they've got it set out, they know what they did wrong, they know what they did right, and they've set it out a lot better than what they had with Gold Coast and GWS.
Yeah. I mean, obviously in the case of Gold Coast, well, it's also going to be a matter of fact of how do they attract people to Tasmania, which is what the $1 million sign-on bonus to help attract players
I think that's a
do.
pool rather than for every player. So I think they get to assign
sign-on bonuses to all the players.
If they sign 5 players, they could give them $200,000 bonuses each.
But that's going to be an interesting thing. Do players move on from their clubs because of $200,000? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, look, we're everyday people. $200,000 would be fantastic.
Oh my God, it'd be great.
But
What I choose
obviously,
to get $200,000.
AFL players, imagine you're trying to attract, well, it says up here, Jaeger O'Meara, you're trying to get him from Fremantle. Does $200,000 bring him in?
Probably. I think what we're going to see is a lot of those players where we saw this offseason. You got Jack McRae, Daniel, Darling, and Parker, and those sorts of players. Chances are a lot of those players will be like in similar aspects in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be doing.
And just to be clear, this is on top of their contract already.
Yeah.
So this
if they're
isn't
getting
just,
$600 a year,
here's $200,000, and that's it.
Yeah. if they're getting $600,000 a year offers, then basically play 5 games a year, and you'll get an extra $200,000. That's basically what it's going to be. So they'll make it very low eligibility for that bonus, and then they'll just be able to get it.
It just gives them, because Tassie have no money. Like Collingwood can pay players because they have money in the bank, unlike St Kilda, right?
Well, no, because every team has a salary cap.
Yeah, but it gives them that additional room to add sign-on bonuses.
No, what Collingwood can do is
not Collingwood. I mean Tasmania. It gives them that additional barrier, and it's all paid for by the AFL.
It's what Gold Coast didn't get, which is why they had to overpay so much, and that's what caused them to lose so many players, because they didn't have the salary cap to keep so many. That's sort of where they've found the balance this year, which is a much smarter way to do it. But I think it's obviously they've had the experience. They now get access to mini drafts. They get access to proper drafts in a much more even fashion, which I think is really important. So good on the AFL. I think this is one of the only things they've done right so far under Andrew Dillon and Laura Kane. But good on them.
Nice.
Finally got something right.
Well, you think back, did GWS did they do too well? I mean, they
drafted
both,
horribly. That's the thing.
I was going to say, it comes off of their poor draft choices, but I think they both started off pretty poor. Obviously, GWS has had more success as a club so far than Gold Coast. Finally, Gold Coast look like they're starting to do well. But that's what, 13, when they come in 2012, 2011, 13, 14 years after their existence, they're finally starting to hit the road. So, yeah, they've clearly gone from, I feel like the worst they could have possibly done to GWS. Nice little success story. Obviously not a premiership yet, but have been close.
Yeah.
And now you've got Tasmania, who look really set up. And if they can just play their cards right, they could get off to a really nice start. I think it's going to be hard to balance it. Is there you can give them a good start. You can give them all the necessary tools. But what do you call a successful starting franchise? Do you call it they're a very good team from the beginning? Do you think they have a really good fan base, like a really good supporter membership number? Is that what you call successful? Obviously, it's a bit tainted from the start because they had their massive 100,000 plus member start. But
again, $10 membership, so
that's it.
Yeah.
Where do you call this a success?
I think, first of all, get a stadium built. That's the first step because obviously the switch in government in Tassie has resulted in a stop of progression with that. Very unfortunate. I think that's the first step that needs to happen is get the rights to a stadium confirmed and get building started. Because if you don't have a stadium, it's going to affect a lot of things. And it's going to mean it's a lot more money for the club to then have to spend on that, which can then impact spending on other things.
And I've been to Ninja Stadium. It was Blundstone Arena at that time, but it's definitely not enough for an AFL side to call their home.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful ground, don't get me wrong. I think it's beautiful. Same goes with UTAS. I haven't been to UTAS, but from the looks of it, definitely not enough for a home again. So
you're just not getting enough money with $17,000 stadium, 17,000 people's stadiums because they're going to need the money to start off with, and they get that attraction for sure. I think if
on the other hand, though, NG Stadium, that's not that big either.
No, it's got capacity. Like those stadiums just don't have I think even the Gabba only has a capacity of 35,000, but it gets packed out basically every week. That's the thing. You're not necessarily going to get a packed out $15,000 stadium in the first couple of years because it's not known that they're going to be good. That's the problem.
The good thing is it looks like a lot of people are around Tassie. They're getting around Tassie, which is good to see.
Yeah.
Because we here at Zero Access Footy love to make fun of Tasmania. At least maybe I'm talking about myself.
Yes.
The idea of people learning to talk Tasmanian is hilarious. I love that.
Well, we've already mentioned it once.
The Offlanders, I can't stand them.
Can't stand them. How many times have you been to Tassie?
Twice.
I've been
Yeah,
once.
mate, you're never going back.
I'm not being allowed in, bro.
How many times have you been to Tassie, producer
I'm going there in May as well.
At least 20 times.
I'm
Nick.
going to watch them play Brisbane. What a poor choice. I'm going to Tasmania to watch North Melbourne play Brisbane, and I'm hoping North Melbourne win.
You're a psychopath.
Oh, that's awful.
If North Melbourne are good, I might go with you.
That would be an awful decision on your part.
Yes.
I'm just letting you know.
I went to Adelaide, mate. What could have been worse? Like, I've already been in the shit.
To be fair, you could have had Northie with you.
Producer Ethan goes bang.
But I think lots of positive signs from Tasmania's start. They've had the backing from the public. They've had a pretty good start from what it looks like, and the previous, I guess you call them experiments, to help decide how they start.
Yep.
Just comes down to that stadium, as you mentioned.
Yep. Again, time to move on. We now have my favourite segment. It is the greatest.
Speaking of going bang,
the greatest edit you will ever see. Behm's Tribunal Tasks. So awesome. This week is going to be one of the greatest weeks we will ever have of Behm Tribunal
it's going
Tasks.
to be a 30-minute rant.
And we're only in round one. We're only in round one of season one. Do you know how good this is going to be? We have Jack Scrimshaw's whack on Jordan Ridley, Tom Lynch's hit on Tom DeConing, and Jackson Archer's falling apparently onto Caden Cleary as a minimum.
That wasn't his name.
And then we also have who was it? McInerney, who got suspended for the bump on Brandon Starcevich.
Luke Cleary, not Caden.
Luke Cleary. Who is it?
Luke Cleary. Yep.
Sydney player suspended for bump. I think it was suspended. No, maybe not. McInerney for facing 3-game suspension. There we go. Another one.
Behm's about to go off. He's got so much. He's got so much to work with.
We're going through an order here. Jackson Archer, first one. When I originally watched it, horrible incident, right? Luke Cleary got absolutely whacked in the head by by Archer's leg. I originally thought that the person who was holding onto Cleary pushed him down, which is why he fell over. And that's why Archer obviously went knee first into his head. He didn't fall over. He didn't dive for the ball, but he went to ground to be able to pick it up. I don't know why I'm playing with this bottle so much. Keep it out of my reach. But I originally thought that it should have then fallen onto the North player who pushed him over, but given no one actually did, it first falls into the situation of who's at fault. The answer, no one. Simple as that. It is a non-football act, but it is not a dangerous non-football act. A player was running to the ball in Archer, and a player fell over in front of him in a
Do
situation...
you mean it was a football act?
No,
What,
it
going
wasn't
to the
a
ground to
football
pick up
act.
the ball?
No, on Archer's part. Archer's part wasn't a football act, but it wasn't a dangerous non-football act.
Okay.
So he was running to the ball at full speed. On slow-mo footage, you can see him actually slow down, right? Which, good. That's what you want to see as a player in a non-guilty verdict. It shows that he wasn't necessarily trying to hit him. Realistically, Cleary should not have gone to ground to pick up the ball. Because as a player, it's probably because he's so young and it's his first game, he probably doesn't have the feel of the game to stay on his feet. But that's the reason that something happened. Literally, Archer couldn't have done anything. What was he meant to do? Jump over him?
Yeah, the other way around it is, would he have gone to ground too? But a lot of players get told to keep their feet and to keep themselves off the ground, because you can't do much when you're on the ground.
Yeah, it also very easily could have been a free kick to Archer for taking the legs out, because guess what? Cleary went to ground and took out Archer's legs. Had he not hit his head, this would have been nothing but a free kick to Archer. So how is that a suspension? I am one of the biggest proponents for suspending players when they did something wrong, which is where we'll get onto the Ridley Scrimshaw situation. However, I don't understand how you can then blame it on Archer when all Archer did was try and contest a ball at full speed, doing everything right up until a player fell into his legs.
I feel like this suspension and the amount of games he's been suspended for purely comes off of the damage done.
Yeah, 100%. The fact that it was such a forceful contact means that it's going to look worse. 100%, it's an unfortunate situation, but 1 week I could almost agree on. I still believe 0, but I could almost agree on 1 week, given he still hit his leg on Cleary's head. But 3 weeks is just absolutely insane to me, and I love that North Melbourne challenged it.
Yeah.
Love that North Melbourne challenged it.
I was worried that North wouldn't, because they've had a history of not doing so.
Yeah.
So thank God they did that.
Yeah. The other one, obviously, is now the Scrimshaw and Ridley situation, where Ridley took a long time to get rid of the ball, but got rid of it, and then Scrimshaw basically jumped, similar to the Maynard situation, but obviously much slower, and then basically whacked his arm into Ridley's head. Ridley then got concussed. So it's not careless contact. No, sorry, it is careless contact. It's not intentional. It is at least high contact because he got concussed, and it is high impact. Sorry, high contact and high impact. That's 3 weeks. You cannot argue against it. Had he have braced himself, similar to what Maynard did, where he sort of just jumps into him like this, he doesn't concuss him either, unless his head hits back when he's fallen onto the ground. But I don't understand how Hawthorn can challenge this and get away with it, because it's 3 weeks, 100%. You cannot go into contest and then whack your arm into someone's head and act like it's not a concussionable offence and suspendable offence. That is unacceptable from Hawthorn.
Agreed. Have they confirmed to challenge it?
Yep.
I agree. I think if the Jackson Archer situation tells me anything, they're not really worried either about the action. They're more worried about the outcome.
Yep.
And that's Jordan really being concussed.
Yep.
I think the 3 weeks stands on top of everything.
Yep. Also, I dare say if Hawthorn don't get the result they want, they will take it to the AFL and then they will go to the third step. And that's a bigger problem that we can talk about at a different time. But then we move on to the Starcevic and McInerney situation. I didn't properly watch this one because I didn't get to fully watch the game, but from the look of it, he's coming from the side and it looks to be more shoulder-on-shoulder contact, but still obviously hit his head. I don't remember if Starcevic got concussed. So just watch the incident with the Starcevic McInerney. It was, first of all, graded as careless, which it was. severe impact and high contact. I would argue that it was high contact because he did get him in the head and he did get concussed. So that immediately results in 1 week. The severe impact is very interesting because Starcevic looks to get the ball, fumbles, ball goes in front of him. McInerney comes in from the side. There's not a lot of head-on-head contact or shoulder-on-head contact. I think Sydney accepting this will be very interesting. They have 3-game suspension for this, which it's the identical pairing of the Scrimshaw and Ridley incident. I think given that this one you could almost argue down to 2 weeks with the same impact being argued down to high impact, it's almost worth doing it. I think this one isn't the worst we've seen of a bump that got 3 weeks. We've seen bumps similar to this get 2 or 1 week. But it's so interesting to me how Sydney have just accepted this immediately. Because you see what Hawthorn have done, you see what North have done. I think you could very easily argue this down to 2. And I don't understand why they haven't. Because we see McInerney coming from the side. He goes to bump him. Problem is, Starcevic has gone down like this to pick up the ball. So he's like this, head over the ball to pick it up. And McInerney probably doesn't realise that and it's too late. I understand the 3 weeks, but I think you can challenge this one down to 2. However, I don't like the idea of challenging it because it undermines the decision in the first place. I just find this a very interesting case that probably is in the most grey area of this week.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Agreed. When you compare the hit to the others, to think that they just accepted it, is very strange.
Yep.
Considering everything that's happened this week. I think for sure I'm more surprised that Hawthorn is challenging theirs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm more surprised about.
100%.
And also considering McInerney, well, who was the hit again? It was Scrimshaw, right? Who
Scrimshaw and Ridley.
I'd say in terms of value to the team, I reckon they're both about equal. McInerney's value to the team is about as equal as Scrimshaw's to his team. So I'm surprised seeing, especially with the amount of outs for Sydney,
for sure,
that they didn't challenge it.
Yeah.
Anything else regarding
the last
takes?
one? The last one is Tom Lynch on Tom De Koning, because this was a 1 week suspension that Richmond are looking to challenge immediately. It was graded as careless contact, which it was, medium impact and high contact. It was his first game since round 15 and it's been suspended. Richmond are going to challenge it, which will happen tonight. I think this one, it's honestly not too dissimilar to the McInerney on Starcevic one. So De Koning's got the ball. He's higher up than Lynch. He gets rid of it. As he's coming down, Lynch sort of goes up with his shoulder to collect De Koning high. There's not a lot of high contact in this one. And so I understand it being just 1 week because it is just medium contact. Medium impact. It's so weird how they've defined this. It's so weird. But I think, honestly, they get away with this one. Maybe.
I'm
because
interested
it all depends on how they grade Lynch jumping into De Koning. Because you can argue that as it's almost 50-50 because De Koning's coming down and Lynch is going up, and that almost cancels out. Or they argue it that Lynch purposefully goes to bump him and that the high contact was accidental. So then you can grade it down to low impact. De Koning also didn't end up concussed, which is the difference to all of the other players. So that's the issue. Once again, they are grading it on the result and not the action. The action, suspendable. The result, probably not. So given the current circumstances, I think he gets off, but I don't think he should get off in the end. That's the only thing I can argue with this one.
Yeah, I think my honest opinion on the entire tribunal system is the fact that it's so flip-flop.
It's horrible.
You
completely useless.
You don't know which one is going to be let off and then which one isn't. I mean, that's probably the reason you've got Behm's tribunal tasks, everybody. But thank you very much for that segment. I think it's always a very interesting aspect to look at, and you do a very, very good job of describing and laying out your reasoning. And so
thank you.
I find myself agreeing with a lot of what you say when it comes to these tribunal takes because, I think they're very much outcome rather than action-based.
Yep. Once again, I am raising my hand to you, AFL. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Laura. This is my application to
they're not watching.
to take Michael Christensen's role. I would love it because I know it better than him.
Blood thinks
Bye.
Andrew Dillon and Laura Kane watch Zero Access.
Nah,
footy.
bro, we're that big. We're that
Insane.
big.
Insane.
We've got more access than access all areas, bro.
All right. Next one. It says that you're introducing this because I have no clue about what you're talking
Yeah.
about here.
So, over the last week and a bit, there has been a lot of news about Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. A lot of news and a lot of rumours, might I add.
I was going to say, how many of them are true compared to...
From some of my sources, I have...
We have Zero Access. You don't have any sources.
I have my sources, okay? So, okay, obviously we have, during the preseason, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan stopped training with the first team and started training with the twos. From what I have heard, when doing drills, he would just randomly leave and go do kicking drills at set shots on goal during drills, right? Shows he's completely not there mentally. Allegedly, I have heard rumours of Ugle-Hagan going to Rory Lobb's house. There were some certain things on a table where they were spelt $DRUG, as you
Just say illegal items. Illegal items, we will say.
Okay, illegal items, put it that way. And then he also pulled another illegal item on Rory Lobb.
Yes.
Right? From what I've heard as well, all Bulldogs players, like literally all Bulldogs players, are completely against him, allegedly. Like they don't want him in the club. So once again, for the Bulldogs, this is a horrible situation for them because one of their most talented players and a player who they almost have to keep for them to stay in the premiership window alongside Marcus Bontempelli, he has now almost proved himself to not be able to be mentally there during a season. There were rumours last year that hours before the final, he had been partying. Again, rumours that he had been partying all night before the final against Hawthorn, and he was almost dropped. So how much do you want to take away from this, given they're all rumours? But again, we've seen a lot of rumours be proven correct when it comes to this stuff over AFL players. How much do you want to take out of it?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because, again, it's a lot of allegeds, a lot of rumours. I think I would take it... I hope they're going by steps and they're putting in the proper discipline, if this is true, to make sure that, one, he can find himself on a better path.
Yeah.
And two, so that he's not put above the others, right? He's a number one pick and a really important part for that team. And I know a lot of clubs at any level, if a player is good... they naturally want to do anything they can to make sure they're still playing for their team because it results in better outcomes.
Yeah.
But you also have to put the foot down where necessary. And I hope that they're going at least step by step to try and find a way to get him past this situation.
Yeah.
It sounds like, from the way you've described it, it is almost unrepairable. There is no way that you can fix this up. Because if your entire team is turned off you, it's very hard to get that back. Very hard.
Very hard to mend those types of relationships.
Exactly. And so you'd hope for Jamarra's sake, he's finding himself a better path. You'd hope that the club is just creating an environment that doesn't involve that type of stuff.
Also, a lot of it does fall back on Ugle-Hagan because realistically, he should change the people around him. I think that's the first step for him. Change the people around you. Because if you've got people encouraging you to do this, they're not the right people to hang around.
Maybe also that includes the environment he's playing under.
Yeah, 100%.
So potentially a trade or a new club, whatever he decides to do. You want him to go to St Kilda?
Oh, bro, we're a rehab centre for players that get kicked out, so we might as well at this stage.
All right. Look, I just think I always hope that these situations get ironed out because I think it's an unfortunate truth that you've got to come with when it comes to the AFL scene is that stuff like that is happening. You wish all the players that you were so in love with were on the straight and narrow and everyone was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But I think the natural truth, whether confirmed or not, is you have to expect that stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Not obviously say it's happening 100% of the time and that this person's doing it because I think so and it has to be happening. You have to be under the understanding that it's not an environment that you have a real understanding of.
No.
The pressure that are on these players and they have their own ways of going about it.
Yeah.
You just hope that clubs are doing everything they can to put them in the right environment.
He's also been through a lot, like a lot of the stuff that happened last year and the year before with a lot of the racist comments and stuff towards him. That's a lot to deal with as a 22-year-old. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So as always, we hope the best for the player. We always want the player to come out of this on top. But it's just a very serious situation. That's all.
Yeah.
So
it's tough to mention stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I hate that the next topic that we've put in is also a very not nice thing, not in the same way. More in a way that is just part of the game that we all love. Very recently, Gold Coast defender Charlie Ballard suffers a ruptured ACL in what looks to be training, not even in a game scenario. It's just after a fantastic feeling, after a fantastic win against West Coast, to go down with an injury like that takes you out for an entire year. You get a taste of something like that.
it was in the game. Sorry, it wasn't.
In the game. Okay. I had been told originally it wasn't, but I think that's just a mix-up. But that's all right. Yeah, first game of the season after the opening round fixture against Essendon was postponed, so he didn't even have. He had to wait another week to play, and to go down with this injury is awful.
Horrible news. I think they now probably get Mac Andrew back, so it sort of takes some pressure off Sam Collins, and you do get someone alongside him. But again, it's just a horrible situation. They've done so much to get in a place where they can win footy games now, but it's just so unfortunate for them. But we also have news of another player who tore their ACL in Lincoln McCarthy. He is planning a Sam Doherty-esque return to be ready for finals.
That would be fantastic. I love it when they get those fast, hopefully safe recoveries.
Yeah. Don't rush yourself and don't ruin your life trying to get back to play out full footy.
Yeah.
But if you can do it in a safe manner, go for it.
And here's the thing, players like Lincoln McCarthy, players like Sam Doherty, they're loved within their club.
Yeah.
Especially, like I, as a North fan, love Sam Doherty. I think he is an inspirational player.
Yeah.
Like a man of the people type player who has gone through so much, and to still be out there doing what he's doing is such a testament to the person he is. Yeah. And I think for Brisbane fans, Lincoln McCarthy is much like that. To be kind of, I wouldn't say shunned, but didn't find his spot in that Geelong side that he first started with.
Get there.
And then to absolutely break out in a Brisbane side that he wins a premiership with. That's a fantastic story, and just winning a premiership, honestly, with a team is enough to make fans love you for the rest of your life. But these situations build character. You've already heard the stories of Paddy Cripps going to Jagger Smith and telling you this isn't the end of your story.
Yeah.
This could honestly be one of the most fortunate times for it to happen, because you haven't played yet. You've still got plenty of chances, and you've got an entire club backing you and the footy world, right? That's a rookie who's lost the chance to play in his first season due to completely unfortunate circumstances. So we wish the best, of course, to Charlie Ballard. I am choosing... Can we skip the segment here? Because I feel like we can find a better way to kind of introduce this. But we will have a segment where I talk more about things that we've learned throughout the week.
Yep. Probably going to debut next week.
I was going to say.
It has also been affected by Cyclone Alfred.
Yes. Yes, it has. That's a good one. I like that. This man's thinking with his brain. I like it.
Even though I don't have one.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Thank God you gave me an out. All right, round 2. I'm so glad that we can move from round 1 to round 2. It's
Same.
We're into the flow of things now. I'm so
I'm in the thick
happy.
Of it, everybody knows.
Oh, please stop. we already get tanked in the YouTube algorithm. We don't need that
DCMA
as well.
incoming. UMG are at the door, mate.
Oh my God. Oh my
I didn't even understand what you said.
UMG, Universal Music Group.
I don't care. Let's move on.
Thursday night, we've got ourselves Blues versus Hawks.
We got 3 games at the MCG in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Not bad. All right, that's gonna be fun. But Carlton versus Hawthorn. Oh, Hawthorn by 100. Let's move on.
No.
Do I say that? Can I say it?
No, you can't say that.
So who do Carlton get? Do they get Kerno back?
They get Kerno back.
Okay, that is something
get Kerno
to
back.
bring up. Let me look at the team lineups here.
Chances are they probably switch Silvani and Kemp, because watching Silvani play in the forward line was a lot more effective than he was in the back line.
Yep.
They probably need Brody Kemp in the back line as well, because we saw how bad McGovern and Haynes were.
Does Nick Haynes get... Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't Nick Haynes get
realistically,
a spot?
he does get dropped. I honestly see Carlton matching Hawthorn. As much as I say, given how bad the performance was, I see their leaders standing up and are genuinely having some insane games. And we've seen Hawthorn allow Essendon to stay with them when they should be miles clear, I think genuinely an upset happens here.
I am on a Carlton hater train. I think Hawks win this by 50.
Wow.
I think with the way the Hawks have been playing, right, they've been able to have their forwards switch things on finally.
Yeah.
They've gotten 2 games in. They look really, really solid. I think they can really blow this one out of the park. I really do. And I'd say the MCG has something to take into it, but I mean, Richmond beating Carlton on the MCG floor,
it would be huge.
I mean, if the Blues can make it competitive, good on them.
Yeah.
Good on them. But I have no faith in Carlton at the moment. That game, I mean, I imagine it turns a lot of Carlton fans off the season already.
It would. I know people who
just
really don't want to watch anymore.
Awful start for Carlton, and I don't think it gets better with a matchup against Hawthorn. That's like the worst thing they could have had after last week. They should be coming into this one 1-0, and I should be going, what a fantastic start to the week. It's just not in my head. I think this is going to be a really, really tough game to watch.
Could definitely see that happening, but I've got my faith in Carlton. Collingwood Bulldogs. No, Ethan, you're not talking this week. I see Collingwood winning. Even though it's the Bulldogs' bid celebration night, I see Collingwood still having the edge. They basically played 2 practice matches where first week they didn't even bother rocking up. Second week, Port didn't even bother rocking up.
Yep.
So they basically had 2 weeks off.
And on that point, Footscray will still have
all their outs.
Lot of outs.
Yep.
And obviously they're not coming up against North Melbourne this week.
Correct.
So I'd imagine it's a big win for the Pies as well, which is unfortunate. It looks like it's going to be, well, at least on my end, I think it's going to be 2 big blowouts in the primetime games of the week.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I definitely see Collingwood winning by about 25-ish in that area.
Well, consider this. North Melbourne, for a lot of the game, were beating the Dogs in the major statistics.
Couldn't put it on the scoreboard.
But we couldn't put on the scoreboard, and our defense is atrocious.
Yeah.
Collingwood will do the same thing in terms of the numbers, but they're not going to miss.
Exactly.
So I'd imagine that the Pies end up taking that one by a big amount.
Essendon Adelaide.
This
at
one,
the G.
I think this is going to be close.
I hope it's close because we need some close games.
We really do.
Yeah.
Man. Bombers versus Crows. I mean, Bombers showed signs of life, which is fantastic. You have high hopes on the Crows. I'm going to say Bombers.
I'm not. They lost Jordan Ridley. I don't see them winning without Jordan Ridley.
Maybe.
I
know who Jordan's got a big part in
I
their
also
team.
see the Adelaide areas of improvement being their small forwards, which Rankin, Rochelle, Neil Bullen as well. I see that being really impactful. Coming on the scoreboard, I see them beating Essendon, even though it's at the G. I think that they don't have a weapon being Essendon where Adelaide really need to target, and I don't think that you've got Mackay on Thilthorpe being a good matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
You've got Zach Reid on... Well, Zach Reid might go to him, and then Mackay might go to Walker, but then that leaves Fogarty, and you don't have really to go to Fogarty, and I think they'll really struggle.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have someone to go to Fogarty, and he just ripped us apart.
Well, on the other side, who do the Crows have to match up with the Bombers? So we've got
They
Sam
don't have
Draper.
Langford.
That is a really good point. They lost 2 really good, really potentially impactful players in this game.
Yeah, they're 2 best.
Man, I may have to go back. I'm going to stick Bombers for the sake of being confident in my ability to pick teams, but I forgot that Langford's out, and so that could really affect them too. That's 2 really important players. I'm going to say Bombers by 1. I'm going to say Bombers by 1.
They probably will win by 1 as well.
Yeah, look at me go.
Yeah.
All right, Port versus Tigers at Adelaide Oval.
This is very interesting.
This is a really different story to
Richmond
what I thought
coming
we'd
off
have.
an insanely good win, Port Adelaide coming off an insanely bad loss. Could you see it happening again?
Oh, how awesome would it be? I feel like no matter what, this is going to be a close game. Tigers showed some heart, man. That is a squad that are very hungry, and they've got some experience in Vlosten. Why am I only thinking of Vlosten? Short and Curvis.
Lynch. It all depends on if Lynch plays.
And these boys they've got hunger, man. They've got some fight in them.
I'm still going Port Adelaide.
I am too, but I think it's going to be like 15 points.
Yeah, I could see it very easily being within 3 goals. Geelong St Kilda. On the tips ladder right now, it is 98% Geelong, 2% St Kilda. Richmond are at 21%, Port Adelaide at 79%.
Oh my God, could you imagine this is where we were at in round 2? Your team is considered worse than the Tigers.
Mind you, we are at $4 odds. Richmond's at $6.50
That is
odds.
true. That is true.
How
but
much,
I think that's
how
just
much do you
sports bet
see
making more money.
How much do you see Geelong beating us by?
40.
Negative 11 points.
You think Saints beat them? I mean, maybe. Obviously, at Marvel is a different story.
We
to
always
GMHBA.
play well against Geelong. Always. Jeremy Cameron always struggles against us. Callum Wilkie is the
I
best
was going to
matchup
say,
in
what
the
are your
AFL
matchups
for him.
looking like? Because Rowan Marshall will most likely have a pretty
Marshall
good
will
time.
be healthy this week, so we won't have Harry Boyd, who I am sorry, but he's just not AFL quality. He will be fully healthy in the ruck. We're going to have potentially Dan Butler, Max King, Mitch Owens, and Liam Henry back. So we're going to get a lot of recruits in, which is going to be really important. I see this being a really good game for us to potentially set up our season. Imagine us going into round 3 against Richmond being 1-1, and then we have Port Adelaide and GWS to then fuck up our season. Because they're both in Adelaide.
Yeah, man, that sounds awesome.
That sounds so St Kilda-esque, doesn't it? It's a St Kilda win. That's the problem. I would love to be 1-4, but we're going to be 2-3. I'm telling you, we're going to win this game.
Okay.
We're going to win this game. $5. I know you need the Mikey money. $5.
Yeah, I'll give it to you for the joke. All right, Lions versus Eagles. Lions.
Let's move on. 80 points.
Lions,
Let's
80
move on to
points
80
Sunday
points.
at the G as well.
At the Gabba. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
North versus D's at Marvel. Again, I have no faith in my team.
I do.
Yeah, I had faith in them in last week, but when they lose to a team missing 6 of their best players, like,
Yeah.
and D's aren't going to be missing 6
No,
of their
but you
best
pushed them
players.
last year. You really pushed them last year.
Yeah. I don't know.
So confident.
I don't know.
Compare-
I was
compare
the
the-
problem is I was confident last week because of the circumstances and the
Yeah.
situation. But considering they couldn't even do that, I don't see them beating a healthy D's team. They've got Max Gorn now to contest Sherry.
Yeah.
Petrarca
Really good
and
midfield
Oliver
battle.
are
Really
still
good
there.
midfield
Yeah, it's going to
battle.
be a good midfield battle. I'm hoping that Powell, again, will be the one that puts them over the top in there because I think Simpkin is doing enough to match up against those two.
Yep.
Sheezel will be
Is anyone coming back for you
hopefully-
guys?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But Sheezel will hopefully be more calm and more
Yep.
clean this week. It's under the roof at Marvel, so there's no MCG weather to affect that. We don't get Wardlaw back. Archer could be gone, which is, I mean, on a already struggling backline to lose Archer, who is at least a
Yep.
somewhat competent one-on-one
Eddie
defender.
Ford, is he going to come back?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have much faith in him doing much either.
It's a good point. very
I
good
think
point.
it's going to be D's by 20.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a similar
result.
result to last week,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay. Well, now I think it's probably the most interesting matchup all week. Fremantle versus Sydney.
Dockers coming back at the MCG.
No. At the Gabba.
At the Gabba?
I mean, at Optus Stadium, not
Yeah.
Gabba. That's what I meant.
I was going to say, that's a really weird matchup.
Ethan, that's another mistake.
Yeah, God. Oh, classic producer moment.
Or
Classic.
actually.
Yeah. Dockers versus
Reese,
Swan.
only Behm can talk. You do nothing for this podcast.
Whoa, he's crashing out again. Oh, my God.
Tell the viewers what the most viewed video we've ever
Oh,
uploaded.
my
the
God.
subject
Who
is.
cares? Who cares?
But guess what? On Instagram, it's me on Josh Rowe, so you can shut up, Ethan.
Yeah, good work,
I only
mate.
care about YouTube, mate. And
I just
Spotify.
said-
Follow us on Spotify. Listen on Spotify.
I just
Rate
said
us 5 stars.
Instagram.
Yeah,
I
you-
just said Instagram.
Producer
I
Ethan
said
is
YouTube.
falling off hard.
And I said
Anyways,
Instagram, and you said you
let's
don't
go.
care
Make
about
this
YouTube.
Quick. Make this quick. Dockers versus Swans. Who do you think's winning?
Ooh, I don't know.
I
can't
said
go
make this
quickly.
quick,
I can't
man.
make this quick. I don't know if Shea Bolton comes back. I don't know if Sandasi comes back. Sydney. I don't feel confident about that whatsoever, but I'll go Sydney.
I'm going to do the opposite and go Dockers. I don't have a margin, though. I don't know how this game is going to go.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
And then buys for Suns and Giants. Who cares, though? That's about
Literally.
5% of the AFL fan base.
If that.
Suns don't. I mean, the Suns fans who are around, they would not care.
No,
because at the
God,
end of
no.
the day, their team is doing well.
Yeah, exactly right.
So good on you guys, I guess. But nonetheless, that is where we are ending episode 4 of the Zero Access Footy podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in. Myself and Behm, otherwise known as the Premiership Quarter.
Yay.
Thank you very much for watching and listening in for this entire time. Of course, be sure to follow us over on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, rate us 5 stars. Thank you very, very much again for tuning into it. We are not doing a cringe outro like we
I
did
was
last
literally
week.
about to say that.
Not happening.
Literally about to
not
say that.
happening. I thank you all very, very much for tuning in to Zero Access Footy, and we will see you all next week in amongst all the shorts that I will create this week.
Will you?
I know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But
can't
thank you
wait.
all again very, very much for tuning in. I'll see you alongside Behm next week for episode 5 and hopefully round 2 where we both come away winners. Cheers, guys. Appreciate you.